we have through 4 sessions been examining how to venture, I must say, into the spiritual world through the northern path of initiation. And the last weeks I've been thinking very much about how to present it, because tomorrow I am going to Sweden, where there is a Scandinavian meeting of the class members for 1 week, and I'm there going to give, I think, 2 hours a day on elaborating how this northern path can be traveled. So I have been thinking, but that is more a presentation, because quite many there have not really been aware of this possibility. And the best way there I will start this presentation is by comparing sort of meditation. So when you meditate, different types of meditation, it can be meditation of the will, or of different small verses, or meditations of the first class, or meditations of the soul, on nature, and so on and so on. It is like when you learn to drive a car, you have the key and you train to put it in the lock, in and out, in and out, in and out. That is sort of one meditation. You have the gear, first, second, third, fourth, reverse. You train that. That is sort of one meditation. You have the clutch. You train on the clutch. You have the train on the gas, and so on and so on. You have to have air in the wheels. You have to have gas on the tank. There are many, many things that you have to do before you can start a car. And these different things is what most people practice. That is a different meditations. So then it is what we want is actually then to drive the car. So we have to do all these things as a preparation, but then comes the traveling, the driving of the car. And that is what very few do. And that so few really traveled into the spiritual world, that was a disappointment, among others, for Rudolf Steiner himself, that not more were able to follow him into the spiritual world. So few that he expressed in several occasions and to several friends a certain disappointment that not more did that. At the time of Rudolf Steiner, there are several paths into the spiritual world, and these are, as to a certain extent, different. The last weeks I had month, I had the opportunity of reading this 5-volume thick work from Judith von Halle, where she the name of this work is called The Word, Das Wort in German, and she is describing quite much from this path that is called the Michael path, or the 19-lesson part. And this is so interesting because there I can see the difference between the Nordic path, because she is describing it from a viewpoint of today. And she is in particular describing when you have gone into the spiritual world, then you should, or it's important to then investigate the layers of the earth. So when you follow the path that very few have into the spiritual world, as Rudolf Steiner did, then you meet the adversarial forces after you have entered the spiritual world, and go through the 9 sort of evil layers of the earth, where Judith von Halle described very, very clearly how the adversarial forces today are trying to use these 9 layers to destroy for the human way into the spiritual world. Rudolf Steiner said once that in the future, which is today, we have to first go through the adversarial forces to go into the spiritual. And when we choose the northern path, then we first go through the elemental world. And in the elemental world, we meet the adversarial forces very strongly. And afterwards, after then reaching the spiritual world, we sort of inverse then. First, we go into the spiritual world, then we have to meet the adversarial forces. But in the northern path, we do not have to do that because we've already done it. So then we can go into the not the evil layers of the earth, but the good layers of the earth, because not all the layer is evil. All the layers are not evil. There are great vast areas which is not yet corrupted by the adversarial forces. And then you can also reach the center of the earth, where the Trinity, where the Mother, or where the good forces are working against the evil forces. That's what I've been especially doing the last month. To understand this, one should have had then read the instructions or the descriptions by Judith von Halle, where she say that today the adversarial forces are concentrating on the streams of the molten ferrum, also iron in the earth, causing the magnetic North Pole to move east. And this is very will interest especially Andrew Linnell, because he is discussing in several occasions the importance of the lines of the magnetic North Pole, where they go north-south or east-west. And this has a great importance on the possibility of reaching the spiritual world. Because when they go north-south, that strengthens the Ahrimanic forces considerably. Where they go east-west or west-east, they weaken the Ahrimanic forces. And today, there is a huge movement. I think it is about several kilometers a year from west to east. So the magnetic North Pole has already reached the Russian area, and it was before in the Canadian area. And this is very important, say Judith von Halle, to realize this this movement and also to counteract it. When you go the northern path, you will reach a certain deeper area of the earth. There are 9 evil layers, but there are 12 good layers. And in the 10, 11, 12, there is already work being done from the good forces to counteract this stream of iron. And that is by the streams of gold. So this is what I have been working on since last time, the last 2 months. But that is only a sort of little story from the from the results of the Northern Path. To reach this depth, we have to go through the elemental world, because both Judith von Halle and Rudolf Steiner did not describe the 10, 11, 12 layer. I do not know if it was impossible or is impossible through that path, or if Rudolf Steiner just didn't mention it because at his time the elemental world was 2/3 closed. So he avoided to describe this way, as it was at that time dangerous. And then it was maybe not pedagogic to describe the finds of deeper layers if you walk the elemental path. But today the elemental path is open totally, and you can then reach the 10th, 11th, 12th layer of the earth and help to counteract the black magic lodges or the adversarial forces in their striving of strengthening the Ahrimanic forces through the streams of the molten iron. I didn't intend to mention this, Andre, but as you said that I would present some new results, so I didn't. That was actually you hijacked me a little. So I thought, okay, these are I've been very intensely working on these streams of gold in the 10, 11, 12 layer to counteract the streams of from the fire earth that is used by the black magic lodges today, which cause the magnetic North Pole to move faster and faster from west to east.
Could you please describe, like geographically, so initial position of North Pole, magnetic pole, and so is it relates to Canada, Canadian territory? Or,
yeah, when I went to school, the North Pole was in Canada. Do we have Andrew here? Andrew Linnell?
Well, he was invited, but I don't think he is here.
Okay, because he's a specialist on this.
Yeah.
So and this northern pole, it was zigzagging in the beginning. Judith von Halle described that it was sort of, it didn't really, but it went east, and then the last years it has been straight line from west to east and is now entering the Russian area.
Yeah. So can you just, describe by some cities around, or, I mean, what kind of geographical points?
Oh, you mean
Mm,
names of
well, if it's possible, of course.
No, I can't. Then I have to have an atlas, and then I could do it. But everybody, I would actually ask everybody to find a map. You can, not now, but later, you can Google it. Movement of the North Pole during the last 100 years, and then you will get very nice graphic maps of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, according to Judith von Halle, of major importance in understanding how the adversarial forces, and Rudolf Steiner also described this in his geographic medicine, how these lines of the northern geographic, the magnetic northern pole is of utmost importance to the strength, for the strength of the Arianic powers.
Well, yes, yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, I can see Penelope is burning to ask a question, so can we take a short question, Ari? I mean, Penny, please, with no distraction, very short. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I like actually.
Okay. I know, but my experience, sometimes people taking time and just going on and on and on, but no. Penny, please unmute yourself. Unmute your machine. Unmute.
Yes, unmuted. I just wanted to say very quickly that in the 1970s, the Northern Magnetic Pole was on Bathurst Island. So Canadians will know where that is. It's central North Canada, and it has been moving since then, as Thoresen said, towards the east. But
could you please type it later in the chat window? The name, I mean, title of, I don't know, name of the city.
Bathurst, Bathurst, Bathurst Island. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for addition.
Yeah.
All right, so Leon.
Hi, Ari. This raises the question for me, if it's relevant. What do these sources or you have to say about the reversal of the magnetic poles? Is that part of this issue?
Yes, that is part of the issue. That is sort of a final blow to this work, a final result of this work of the Black Lodges, according to Judith von Halle.
Wow, thank you.
And we can, and that is so important, we can counter. This work is going on just now, how they work through the streams of the iron of the earth, the molten iron, which is in the fire earth, and accessible to our feelings, and causes also volcanic activity. But this is counteracted also as we speak from the streams of the gold of the 10, 11, 12 layer, in which we can participate if we travel the northern path. So you see, it's very important that we do this. Yes, no more questions? Yeah.
Like it's no questions.
Okay. So that was a little, I am working with a group, actually international group, of understanding these three inner layers. It's me, and it is a woman from Dornach, and there are three from Sweden. We are, every Monday, we work on understanding this interior of the earth. And all are able to travel. And then we come to this importance of the ability of traveling. And I must again say that if you meditate, you prepare the traveling. It's like training on putting the key in the car key back and forth, or the gear and the clutch and the gas and so on. But the aim, the purpose of these meditations is to travel into the spiritual world, which very few are doing. They sort of, many stay with the putting the key in and out of the hole or meditation, but we have to let go and travel into the spiritual world, as Rudolf Steiner described, as Andrei said, 1912, 3rd of April. To venture in. And if you read what Steiner writes, or others, Steiner have described it, Judith von Halle have described it, several have actually described how they travel into the spiritual world and seek information, seek observation, discuss with spiritual beings, observe the changes in the spiritual world, observe the opening of the elemental world, the incoming of the Asuric forces, and so on. We have to do that. And you have to sort of be aware that the meditation is only a preparation of traveling. And then we come to this, what we have been doing, the first 4 sessions of this sort of ongoing course. That is to fade, the fading technique. I have been thinking also that this meditation preparation is important. We have to have a certain awareness of our thinking, of our willing, of our feeling. We have to be patient. We have to be concentrated. We have to be, what's it called in English? Dauerhaft. Staying with this. We cannot just do it for 3 minutes and then jump off. We have to really do it for a longer time. And then we go into this, suddenly this fading or traveling into the spiritual. And then, as Steiner actually say, the world around us is changing. When we leave our body, we go into the spiritual, then the surroundings change. The first is that it becomes certain darker on the periphery, and there is starting to do a movement in the concentration where you sort of fade. And that is the beginning. Then you are on the way. And after this movement, you start to see that this movement is, of course, from an elemental being. Something have to move. If something moves, it is usually a being. And then it is only to follow. And that was the problem last time. You remember, Andrei? I was a little, almost little upset because all the questions was about what do I see there? What do I see there? What is this? What is that? And that is a huge mistake, because that is how you combine concept and percept. You see something, you see the movement, and then you ask yourself, what is this? And then you stop. Then the thinking, because all the time you use your thinking, because this is highly conscious work. It is not atavistic, it is really conscious. You think all the time, but if you put a concept on what you experience, then you stop yourself. Then the thinking becomes dead and you stop yourself at that point. And that is what almost everybody, that is, I will rephrase, that is what everybody do as a mistake in the beginning. They see something and some get frightened. Some ask themselves, what is this? Some don't believe it. And there you have these three things. You get fear that you are leaving this certain ground. Yeah, now I thought about something else to tell about that path. Some personal thing that is quite funny, but I will do that a little later. Remind me, Andre. And so, as Steiner said, the fear is stopping you, the doubt is stopping you, the hate is stopping you. Hate, fear of spiritual, doubt in spiritual, and hate of the spiritual experiences. And you have sort of just to travel on without fear, and that is for many a certain difficulty. I remember how I conquered that fear. Then I was about 12, and I thought I have to do something with this fear. I told myself, because it stops me. And at that time, we lived up in the forests of Norway. So after my parents have fallen asleep, and it was autumn, so it was quite dark in the night. So I went out into the forest, 12-year-old, quite far out. And there I stopped and said, if there is something that is dangerous, let them come now or stay away forever. And then I stood waiting for these forces to come, and nothing happened. And then after that, I have actually not been afraid of this. So that is how I, a 12-year-old, conquered fear. Maybe I would have done it differently today, or I don't know, but that was one way. And now I will tell you something interesting, if there are not any questions about this. You see, when you walk the northern path of initiation and you go through the three elemental realms, then you read Vidar, which is the guardian of the threshold. And Rudolf Steiner, he said that they have in the vicinity of Köln, that is Cologne, in English, isn't it? Yeah, Cologne, found a picture of Vidar, a stone, a quite high, tall stone, 2 meters, 2.5 meters, where Vidar is presented. And it has been written, Rudolf Steiner has half a lecture on this, and it has been written 1 or 2 books about this. It's called the Vidar Flame Stone, something like that. And I have looked at this image, and then I realized when I looked more closely to this stone, this stone has 4 sides. So there are written things on each side, and one is old, and then we have a young person, and that is, for me, that is Balder, because when you meet Vidar on the threshold, you always meet his companion Balder. And then comes something interesting that I didn't know, because Sevak Gulbekkian, my English publisher, he visited me here in Norway. And then I told him something very strange that had happened to me, which I had no idea why. And there are 3 stages on this meeting Vidar. the first, when I met him, it felt like walking on rubber balloons with water. It felt like walking on some sort of watery thing. The next thing, that was half a year later, my stomach changed. I have had some pain in the stomach for 10 years, and it disappeared within seconds. And then came the most interesting thing, which I had no idea about. And that is, as you see, I have my hair always a little long, and it always gets, when it blows in the wind, or I have washed it, and it blows in the wind or such, it gets knotted. You know, it's difficult to have a comb in it. So that's why I usually used it bound in the back. But from one instance, this knotting disappeared. Totally gone. I can go in the wind now, I can wash it, I don't even have to comb it. It is totally without the knots. And I thought that was very strange. And then Sevak Gulbekyan came here, and I said, this is so strange. It is very personal, but and then, whoa, that is on the Vidar stone, he said. There are 3 stages, and that was on the back side of the stone, 3 stages of conversing with Vidar. He has this bottle of water at the feet, he has his sword on the stomach, and he has a comb. And I looked up Sergei Prokofiev, and he said that he points to this. He said that when you meet Vidars, or Vidar had to do with the sun forces, because he is now the archangel of the sun. And through our hair, we receive the forces of the sun. And he straightened out, almost you say, straightened out this path between the sun and ourselves. And then that is why Vidar is pictured with a comb to straighten out the hair. And I said, wow, this is so interesting. So this is also a little experience that you can have on the path with on the path of the Northern initiation. Just a personal comment, but maybe it is not that personal. So that is, we come now to this point of traveling and fading. And then I would like some questions about how it is going and or not going, and difficulties and so on, or changes in the walking or stomach or hair or whatever people might have experienced. So this was the introduction to this session.
Okay, so we have part of meeting for questions. So yeah, Penelope, go forward. Thank you.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Or would the comb on the Vidar stone relate also to the Pictish symbols of northern Scotland and the Orkney Islands, where a pair of symbols, a mirror and a comb, appear together right through the old Pictish area? Would that originally be the same mysteries?
I think the Pictic mysteries and the northern path, the Nordic path of initiation, are the same, yeah. Scottish, Faroe Island, Norway, Sweden, Finland. I think this whole area were in this northern path. Northern Mysteries. And this calm, I didn't know that they had that, but this seems to be more important than I have realized.
That's wonderful.
And maybe also that, you know, I was traveling this Northern Path since I was 5, and I always, I had so many struggles with my mother. She wanted me to have short hair, and I never wanted that.
Oh.
So I think that is because I felt that it took away my path. And this receiving, according to that it doesn't receive then the sun forces like Prokofiev indicate.
So why do they suggest women should cover their heads all the time?
That is, you see, that is very important. For hundreds of years, the path through the elemental realms have been closed. It opened partly in 1879, one more part in 1949, and the last part in 2019. And the good forces, it was agreement, humans should not go the elemental path. Joanna von Keyserlingk asked Rudolf Steiner about that. Can I go through the elemental realm? She said. And Rudolf Steiner said, it is possible, but it is dangerous. And I think he didn't himself, he didn't follow that path. He maybe knew about it or whatever, but he didn't travel that path. He had the other path, which at that time was the opportune, maybe the best way. And today it is possible. So that's why they I think there are many things to be found that shows that this northern path was sort of suppressed because it was dangerous.
You've answered a question that I've had for the last 30 years about the Picts.
Oh, good.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, Elizabeth, you have raised hand. Yeah, go ahead, please. Unmute your machine, please. You are muted.
Yeah, hello. Thank you. I need to go in a very short time. I will listen to the recording afterwards. I will listen to the rest. This is all I wanted to share was, it's just about doing the exercise. I don't really see things very much, but what I wanted to share that something that sometimes happens is, you know, I'll be looking at a plant or something, and I won't, you know, maybe for a moment I won't really be paying attention so specifically to anything, and then suddenly in a moment I'll sort of have the feeling like something just happened. I don't see it, but I just realize at a certain moment that it happened, and then it's over. That, you know, that's all. I just wanted to share that.
Maybe I have put too much emphasis on seeing, because you can experience it, you can feel it, you can hear it, you can smell it. There are several ways of observing, but we have to somehow observe it, because if we don't observe the elemental beings, then we are sort of stuck. We cannot. It's like going through a forest without observing the trees. Yes, you can feel your way, but then it's much better to somehow observe them, smell them, or hear them, or see them, or whatever.
Mm.
And those who have gone into at least the third realm, for example, Pogachnik, or Edith von Halle, or me, or others, quite many, observing the elemental beings there, which are the nature spirits, the nature beings, the nature fairies, it's called too, the gnomes and so on. They all report on seeing them. So it seems that seeing has a certain importance. But I must again say that it's not necessarily seeing, it is somehow observing.
Yeah, thank you.
Dear friends, more questions? Okay, Anthony. Yes, hi, Anthony.
Hello, Andre. Thank you. Some years ago, and this is probably over 5 years or so, I live in British Columbia, and I was driving along the Fraser River, which is one of the major rivers in British Columbia, going to a native gathering. And as I was driving along the highway, I noticed on the hillside, the highway had been built in a very narrow gorge, sort of. And so the hillside was still quite muddy, that is hard mud and rock. And I noticed there were very few plants growing on that kind of ground, but there was one that was thriving. There was a plant with blue flowers, etc., that was really doing well amongst some grasses and short bushes. And I thought to myself, how is it that this flower is surviving in this kind of environment where nothing else is really doing well? And so I kept looking at it, and suddenly it was like a voice came to me. And the voice simply said, keep looking. Keep looking. And I knew that it wasn't just me thinking, keep looking. It was something the flower was speaking to me in a sense. Keep looking, keep looking. And I drove a few more miles, saw more of the flowers. And eventually, after the gathering, the native gathering, I was driving home and I thought I have to make a flower remedy. And I had with me, I had specifically some spring water and things to make remedies with. And so I made the remedy. I made the mother tincture out of the flower, this blue flower, and I didn't know what the flower was. I didn't know the name of it. And then when I got home, I looked it up in the guide to the various northern flowers or western flowers, and it's called penstemon. And penstemon has 5 pistils, and one is not active. The other 4 are active. And when I made the remedy, I thought, this has to do with will. The flowers tell me I have will. I grow here because I have will. And when I looked it up, when I got home, it said, this is a remedy to bring up a stronger will. It was exactly what the flower was telling me. And I gave it to some friends and it worked. Yeah, it worked for them. Yeah. So this to me was a connection to that elemental activity of the flower. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you were in the third realm of the elemental world. And to get to the second, if we work as healers or medicine men, women, then the interesting thing is to stay in the third realm. That is where we do our work. That is much more interesting than the second or first realm, which are more and more adversarial. But we have to and Rudolf Steiner described this also, when in imagination, inspiration, intuition, we have to take away the first. You have sort of to take away this voice. You have to go through it, take away. You can often wonder what he meant by take away, but it is in a way fading through it. First, you fade through the physical world. Then you fade through the imagination, because what you described is an imagination. Then you fade through it, then you come to deeper and deeper layers, and that is how you can travel further. That is not pleasant, of course, because it's much more pleasant to see the elemental beings of the nature. They are so life-giving or beautiful, or yeah, well, you have all kinds of them. But to get to the guardian of the threshold, to Vidar, you have sort of to go through a desert. You have to go 40 days in the desert. Or Rudolf Steiner said, in the future, you have to go through the evil paths to get to Christ. So that is what I actually been talking about all the time. You have to, many of you and many others described very well this third realm of the elemental world. And they have experience. But then, you see, then they stay with that. Like you described, you stay with it. You make a medicine, you think about, okay, this I can use, so and so. And that is well and good, of course. But I want you then to go on. And not put a concept on the percept, or not thinking about how to use it, or and so on. Just fade on. Then you should stop your car maybe and just look at it, like it said. And you need time to do it. You need time to do it. Well, thank you for another illustration of the third elemental realm.
May I make another comment in relation,
Yes.
going back to the iron? As a filmmaker, I traveled to many places around the world, working a lot in geology with geologists and people who were researching copper, silver, gold, iron, etc. And so I went to various locations that were quite remote by helicopter, etc., to film their activity. Excuse me. One of them was in northern Canada, Baffin Island, which is not far from the island that was mentioned earlier, where the North Pole, the magnetic North Pole is.
Was.
Yes, once was, yeah. But not far from there, some years ago, 3 mountains of iron were discovered. And I was asked by the company that was developing the particular deposit to film, to make a couple of films. So I traveled up there a couple of times, the very northern tip of Baffin Island, across from Greenland. Well, it was discovered that iron is amongst the purest iron in the world. It's 67% iron. And some samples were sent to Germany for smelting. And it was smelted without any residue, without any other material in it. It came out as pure iron, pure iron, very, very high. And I traced a line from that area over, I think it's Prosecutor that worked with metals, and there was a mention of an island off of Greenland which had the same kind of iron. So I'm thinking that perhaps under the ocean, under that area, there may well be a current of iron through that part of the world, which is not very far from the magnetic activity, from the magnetic pole. That was fascinating to me, to see these 3 mountains of iron there, exposed above the level of the earth, exposed upward. And so as you were speaking about that, I could well imagine the aromatic activity, yes, but also this connection of the movement of the magnetic pole
Yes.
with
Yes.
the iron itself. Yeah.
And according to Judith, she that is actually what there is the main goal of the adversarial, the left-hand lodges, the black magic lodges today, is to use this stream of iron to counteract that we wake up to the spiritual world.
And yet iron is one of the things, when the train came, Steiner says you don't stay off the train, you get on the train. And, you know, even though it's aromatic in nature.
Yes.
So it's something, it's something we have to deal with and somehow try to redeem that aspect of the earth.
Yes. And to redeem it, we have to go deeper. And to go deeper, it seems to me we have to travel the northern path. Otherwise, we will end up in the fire earth. Most of us, at least.
Yeah, with Johanna Kaiserlink, when she asked Steiner, when one reached Shambhala, essentially, and he didn't. I don't know if this is fact, but he did say it's too dangerous.
Yes.
But it can be done with Christ.
Yes.
It can be done with the assistance of Christ.
Yes.
I think that was quoted.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was much more dangerous than today. That's the point. Because when you go through the elemental world first, then you can reach Shambhala without going through the evil layers of the earth, because the earth is not totally evil at all. There is a segment that is evil, where the tortured souls or the bound souls and the demonic forces have been gathering for a long time, but not the whole. You get easily an impression from reading Steiner that all the interior is evil, but it's not.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here is a question from Joe Savage. Joe, yeah, go ahead. Just unmute your machine. Unmute your machine, please. Thank you.
Unmuted now? Are we okay?
Yes. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, go ahead. Hi.
I have an observation, which is a kind of a question. I like to meditate on plants because it's much easier to see movement, and it seems to turn one way and then turn the other, and then it moves up and down kind of this way and that way. But what's interesting is that no matter what plant I look at, it turns into a kind of a face. And sometimes the lips are moving, but I don't hear anything.
No, good. That is what I've been saying. You see, the first you see is a certain darkening of the periphery. Then you start to see a certain movement. It can be horizontal or vertical. The horizontal is actually later. That has to do with the Ahrimanic forces, and they are deeper than the Luciferic.
That for me started first. It started moving like that first, and then kind of like this.
Yeah.
But what's very interesting is that what I observe is what's going on in me while I'm doing it. And that if I have a concept, I feel that there's a block and it stops. But I understand or begin to feel what the feeling is inside me for it to happen. And when I understand that feeling, then I know that it's only when I get to the point where I have that feeling that it begins to happen again. And it doesn't happen until I have almost blocked out everything around me, and I get into a very strange, I guess you might say, fading is a funny word for me. It's not so much fading as a kind of dissolving into it. But it's, I notice that if I look at anything once I begin to do that, if I look at anything and I begin to get into that mood, things begin to move again. Is that pretty much what you should expect? Is that you learn how to find that point inside of you which enables you to experience the etheric world or the elemental world.
What's your name?
Joe Savage.
Joe Savage. You have saved my day. So what you say here is another way of saying it, maybe a much better way of saying it than I have tried. Because what you describe is very, very, very important. That is what I have been trying to say. So if you could say something, how you get into this phase or movement, and not necessarily deeper, but maybe that too. Do you feel you get deeper into it when you then redo this procedure?
Well, what's interesting is that the procedure itself, when I'm moving into the procedure and I feel this happening within myself, and I feel it happening especially up in this area, that when that begins to happen, if my thoughts go off, or if I have a concept, or if I ask a question, it disappears.
Yes.
And then I have to go back into it, and I have to begin to move into that. And as I'm moving into it, I feel this, it's trying to break, it's trying to stop. I'm trying to, and I have to let go, and I have to keep letting go, and I have to keep letting go. Otherwise, it keeps breaking and keeps stopping, and the movement will go like this, and it'll stop, and it'll then turn again, and it'll stop, and then it'll go back again. And then what's very interesting is that I get very sleepy. And only after about 5 or 10 minutes, my eyes begin to shut, and I can't hold them open. I can't even, I have to close them, and I have to wait a while before I get my energy back again to try to do it again. And then it'll be there for a minute or two, and my eyes close again. And I get extremely tired doing it.
You know, Judith von Halle described somewhere that exactly same happening. She say when she is traveling into the spiritual, she can do it for, let's say, 10 minutes, and then she get too tired. Mm-hmm. And then she add Rudolf Steiner, he could do it for an hour without getting tired.
I can imagine. It takes a lot. Yeah. It's a discipline. You have to work at it over and over again to do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yes. And I can do it for some time too, but you know, there is a limit. It has to do with the concentration, and that is a preparation meditation to keep your concentration. And the more you can do that, the better.
Right.
So if you are slightly Asperger, then you can keep it a little longer time. I'm so pleased to hear this is very important, what you have described. And I would like you to describe a little better to avoid, you said you put a concept, that is what I said, especially last time, then you stop it all, and then you have to get back into it. How do you eliminate this concept?
Simply by focusing again on what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I eliminate by looking at the plant again. If I start to think about it, I get rid of that and just focus on it and let myself try to fade into it as much as I can.
Yes.
But it's and you can feel the difference immediately.
I know.
That's the point, is that when you feel what's going on within you, then you know that what's happening is correct. And when I get to the point where it actually begins to move, and then I keep following it, I find myself getting tireder and tireder and tireder. And finally, my eyes begin to close, and it's all of a sudden I realize I almost fell asleep. Yeah. And then I have to wake up and I start again, and I try, or sometimes I have to keep my eyes closed and sometimes I keep one eye open and then the other eye open. And when I do it with just one eye, it begins to work differently than with the other eye. It's very interesting.
When you say you follow it, that is maybe what you should try to change in your practice, because when you follow it, you also stop yourself.
Well, following it isn't the right word. It's watching it.
Okay.
Yeah, what's very interesting is that it's turning, but nothing's turning. And it's moving, but nothing's moving. It's like it's outside that's moving it, and it's going around like this, but it looks like the whole thing is moving, but if I look at one spot, nothing moves. But it still moves around.
Try to go through it.
I try to do that, and I'm not quite sure how to do that yet.
Yeah, because you describe a left, right, up, down movement. You have to go straight through it.
Mm-hmm. Plants are much easier because they're more alive. It's a stone, not so hard. Metal, harder. Fire, I didn't relate to at all. But plants and different plants have are easier to work. And when you pick a plant and you put it in a vase, it's dying. So you have this dying element that you're dealing with at the same time as looking at a living plant, which does a whole different thing.
Yes. And then that is an exact description of this elemental world, the third realm. So for the next time, I want you to try to orientate yourself and go into it.
Okay.
And through it. And if you have done that only once, then you know how to do it.
Right, because once you do it, then you look at yourself and find out what happened in me when I did it. Then you do know how to do it. That's the important part.
Yeah, and then you go through the third, then you come to the second, then you go through the second, you come to the first, you go through the first, then you come to the guardian or the threshold, and then the problems are over. Because then you get the education from him.
Right, problems are over. Not quite.
Yes, when you reach the guardian of the threshold, there is no more sort of problems, because then he teaches you how to do it.
Yes.
Go further.
Look forward to that.
That's what I meant with problems over. Because now you have to sort of teach yourself. You have to try different ways. You have to see, how do you get deeper, how do you get through, and so on and so on. And do you feel any fear when you see the movements or faces?
No. I've been a member of the first class for a long time, and I've been a reader of the first class, and I've worked on meditations for 50 years almost, so 40 years. So,
but when you come to the second realm and you meet the Ahrimanic elemental beings, then you will probably have a certain fear. And first, when you meet the Asuric, you will definitely feel a certain fear.
Well, it's interesting that the faces on the plants that I see are all very strange. Yes. Sometimes they look like animals. Sometimes they look like things out of movies. Sometimes they look like But
Yes.
every time a face appears all the time, no matter what I'm looking at, it turns
Good.
into a face.
Thank you
You're
for this
welcome.
conversation, and I think that has explained a lot for the others to listen. And you have said what I have been trying to say or want to say very well. I am very, very happy. Mr. John Savage.
Joe, it's Joe.
Oh, Savage, yeah.
Joe, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Nancy is next. Nancy.
This was almost everything that needed to be said, Andre. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Nancy, you good? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So this has helped a lot, just to move into that realm of how to explain the inner movement. I've been in my meditations, I usually go through this bereft world feeling that emerged probably a few sessions ago. So I don't see so much the movement that I was expecting to see anymore. It's more, I merge into, say, the tree, and at a certain point I'm feeling, well, usually a lifting up to the top of the tree and feeling an opening, and then a feeling of being bereft and lonely and a bit of despair. And it's how long I'm in this world that I play with, or that, because I don't know where to go with it. Sometimes it's a long time, and sometimes it's a very short time that I move through this. And it's playing with it, like Joe was saying, but where do I find myself within myself to find a direction? So sometimes I'm trying to feel my heart or my hands and feet, just to be connected to my being. And then other times it's just fading further, but then I feel more lost. And then it's, I'm just trying to get the experiences, but it's almost like an oscillation between all of this. And then it's almost like it comes towards me. So there's a certain point that I'm going towards it, and there's this striving in my will, but then there's almost a limit to what that feels like I can use. And so then I pause and try to be receptive to something moving towards me. And it almost feels like that combination helps me move, helps things move. And then something will happen, and I'm all of a sudden in a greater presence, a loftier presence. And if I've seen some of the adversarial element or sensed them more than see them, they become almost thinner and cartoon-like. And then well, actually the other time an image came in, it was of a being, like almost like an elf king being with hair that was prominent. And then I have to say, the thought came of you, Ari. It was almost an image of your continents. And then that broke through me to another place of a lofty presence. And at this time I'm feeling the part of me where I'm tuning into this is from the back of my head. And so the back element of me is becoming more in my awareness. And then there's different things can happen, but there's almost a feeling of emerging with a much greater, loftier being, and almost being anointed by this being, which is inevitably about the sun. It just feels like the sun. Almost every time there's this moment of the sun, and It's filled with elation, a smile, like an inner smile. And then I'm not sure how long to stay. I just don't know, because then I'm kind of overwhelmed, and it's hard to hold that space at the same time I'm being held in it. And tiredness will come, but there's all these factors that are playing in, and just one little thing about the face that Joe spoke of too, that then at one point along the way, then a face in the tree comes, and again, it's saying, it's using its mouth, but I'm not understanding the words. So these are just some of the experiences I'm going through.
It is so interesting, because the main theme of my comments last time was that the main mistakes not you, but all of you did, was to put a concept on the percept. What Joe has described was that he moved up and down in this third realm and didn't go through. And what you describe also, especially in the beginning, when you see the tree and you go up, you are lifted up. That is what we say in Norway, vel og bra, is well and good. But that is not the path you should. We can stay for 50 years in this up and down and in this third, but I want you to go through. So you have to change direction, and not up or left or right, but going through it. And that is sort of also a will. You have to will to go through it. That it seems, when you have managed to get away from this concept percept problem, then the problem is not to engage your will enough to go through. That is what both you and Joe, I think, must try to do better. Does it make sense what I say?
Right. So when I'm feeling this, it's sort of the going up in the tree takes me more into this expanded place, but I'm not going through.
Yeah. It's like you have a compass and you are in fog, and you have to follow the needle straight ahead. That is very important.
Okay.
And it becomes more and more important when in the third you can actually do this up and down and you can spend time there. In the second, it's very important that you follow this direction. And in the first, it is very important. Because if you don't do it there, you lose yourself, sort of. You get back, of course, but you are disoriented. So it's very much like I was a scout, with the compass and map, and I realized it's very important to not be deviated, but be aware of the direction. That is today's mantra.
So just because experiences happen and it feels good does not mean that it's the direction.
And it is good. Then I did this my mistake, not a mistake, but did that for many, many years myself. And I thought that was it. But it is much, much more important to get to the threshold. because there the path further into the spiritual world is open.
Right. But this feels like it is a path. I mean, it feels like one is doing something. So that's the.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Dear friends, looks like it's becoming main leitmotif because we have to go through, we have to move in the elemental world. There is a question from Glenn Charles. Hello, Glenn. You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, excellent.
Hi. Hello, Ara. Hello, everyone. Just a quick question. Obviously, it's always a question as to whether you're actually seeing something that's actually a spiritual reality or whether it's your eyesight or something. I had a very interesting experience recently in June. I knew that I would be in a quiet place by the sea, and I knew the sky would be quite large and hopefully blue. And I was looking at the sky, trying to concentrate and merge, and it was too light, so I couldn't manage it. So I looked at the sea, and the sea happened to be a deep blue, and there was lots of light rippling on the surface of the sea, almost too much to look at. So I wonder whether that might have put me off somehow, but I tried to manage it in my consciousness and awareness and stare deeply at the surface of the sea and the rippling lights. And then I suddenly started to see plumes of like smoke or spray or vortexes coming out of the surface of the sea. And I kind of blinked a bit and then looked again, and they were there. And then the whole sea was covered with these wherever I looked. It was amazing. And then I stared further deep into the sea, and it was the deep blue. And as I went, I didn't feel myself going down into the sea, but I could somehow see through beings. They looked like mostly heads of beings that were kind of gently revolving around each other in a really strange way. In a way, they were all together and they were all kind of gently moving together. They were all like joined. And I thought, this is amazing. And then I looked again at these plumes, and they became clearer. They look like arms coming out of the sea doing some kind of eurythmy gesture. So, I mean, obviously then I think to myself, am I making this up? But I've looked, not as clearly, but I've looked at water again several times, and I experienced the plumes. I just wonder whether that's a real experience.
In my opinion, this is very real experience, because it is when you repeat this, and that is also one thing with the traveling into the elemental, you start again where you stopped. So you don't have to do it again. You go in to the elemental and you get tired or you have to do work, and then later you start there again and you go further. So let's say you stopped at a certain experience or certain movement, you go back there immediately next time. Is that what you then did the second time or the third time? You sort of started there?
Yes, I managed to get there quickly the second or
Yes.
third time. Exactly.
Yeah.
But then what to do then is the question, obviously. But
yes, and that is that is the mantra of this week. That is to not. Last time we talked about concept and percept. This time it is actually to go through, venture straight ahead, not left, not up, not down, not right, straight through.
okay, I try.
Yeah, and then these phases will disappear. these movements, these beautiful vortexes and color and all this will disappear, because then you come into the second realm, and that is almost like coming from imagination to inspiration, and then further to intuition. This actually is the same when you go through the third, second, and the first realm. So then it disappears, all this beautiful, and you are left with some geometric experience.
Aha. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that is the Ahrimanic. Ahriman is geometric, you know, mathematic. And that is what Hilma af Klint and also Martinus did, go to the second realm. Then you get the mathematical aspect of the whole existence, which is, of course, Ahrimanic. The first is the more artistic, which is the Luciferic, which is beautiful. Lucifer is beautiful. You can stay with him long time and have very much fun. You don't have fun with Ahriman. There you have, okay, 2 + 2 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, yeah. So most like to be in the third, that is the nature spirit. Yeah, okay, we will discuss this further, Glenn.
Thank you.
When I come to England.
I see you then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ari, you asked me to remind you about something, what you actually left during your presentation, like a main course of presentation. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
honestly, I forgot what exactly.
Yeah, but I remembered it and have included it already, so thank you.
Okay, excellent. So it's we have about 30+ minutes until the end of session. And my question, can we maybe just go forward with new kind of exercises for the next 2 months?
Yes.
If you need to.
Yeah. Well, the exercises for the next 2 months, the exercise for the last 2 months was to train in not putting a concept of the percept. And the exercise now is to go straight forward, going through and go into the, you see, to enter the Ahrimanic domain is like enter into a desert. It is not pleasant. So you have to, it's almost like in going into the dry wilderness. So that is, you, of course, you do the same exercise. Of course, not the exercise, but you know, you fade into the plants, into the trees, into the blue of the sea, as Glenn said, into the plants, and so on. That is, you use the whole world as an exercise. And then you come into this stopping yourself with putting a concept on it all, thinking about it too much. And then you stop yourself in going up, down, left, right, and not through. So that is what we are to concentrate on. That is to go straight through. And then you come to an area which very few have described yet of you. Some have from my German group. Then you come into the Ahrimanic area. And that is not really pleasant. And then you have to conquer your not wanting to have pleasantness. You have to conquer your lust for pleasantness, is correct expressed, I guess. So that is the exercise for the next 2 months. Very simple. Going straight through. It seems very simple, but as I heard this time, there are several of you who are stopped by that just now.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just describe my experience?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I have, I think, good result when I'm, for example, watching a blue sky. And it came very quick because I start to see beings which are look like meteors, little meteors which are moving around. Almost immediately. It takes about 30 seconds just watch on it. And I a little bit stopped in different exercises because I used to observe a white and yeah, when you're watching white, for example, when it's kind of dark around, it's usually happening before night sleep. So yeah, and shade, for example, which is created, for example, pillow, and you have white sheet before night sleep. So shades start to move. And then you will just look at it and you will see the shade is actually created by millions of beings. I mean, many, many beings, which are look like insects. So they're moving and it can be different configuration of them. So, and then you're moving inside, not inside, through it. So you have different experience, and actually it's pretty exact image of some kind of bigger insects, which are appearing almost like in the bigger picture in the book, and they are moving up and down. Sometimes, I mean, a little diagonally, but my experience, you can see it in all details. So moving forward, I'm coming in interior, cannot see any kind of beings, but as you describe right now, and I watched this movie, and I have some experience of a picture of this. What is her name? Hima Klimt, right? Von Klimt. Yeah, it's something like this, but more in darkish scheme of color. So mostly like a roundish shapes, which are placed in some kind of interior. An interior look like a dark forest, or it can be some kind of canyon. So, and they are just grouped together. And then if you're moving forwards, so I'm discovering myself like between two walls, uneven walls. And in the front, it's kind of fog. So I'm moving through this, and it's some kind of elements inserted in the wall, but very simple geometric forms. And this is about when I'm stopping. Quite unpleasant experience, I'll tell you. And a side effect on my soul, I'm struggling with kind of sense of hate.
What you are struggling with?
Sense of hatred.
Oh, yes.
So, and it's sometimes I have to really manage it, because sometimes it appears right during the day and it's coming in the form of thoughts. I have to really just control it. So this is what's going on.
Very well. That is what a description of entering the second realm. And this hate that you can feel there is an Ahrimanic hate, and you have no idea why do you feel this hate. But this you have to accept, and you have to leave that. I mean, you can have a holiday till next time. This is what I want to hear next time, this description of the second realm. And the second realm is insects, the elemental beings there are very much like spiders or insects. Actually, more like spiders.
Yeah.
Not insects. Insects have 6 legs, spiders 8, and that is quite important. They have 8 legs. And they have, and also one in the Luciferic, in the 3rd realm, there are colors of the elemental beings, like several have described. In this 2nd, there is black and white.
You know, Ari, I didn't experience any Luciferic ones.
What?
I did not experience any Luciferic beings.
Okay,
I didn't see anything beautiful at all.
You went maybe straight through the 3rd, maybe.
Yeah,
And
I had pretty good experience of elements of air, which I cannot say they are beautiful or no, but it's totally matching to describing for Goldsteiner how they appear. I mean, in this particular course, which we usually are mentioning, it's 136 giving in Helsinki. I think in the first lecture or the second lecture, he explains how they look like. They look like meteors or, something moving lights, and they are just moving in the light. So that was description of Steiner. So I didn't see any beings which look like human or so. I mean, this kind of stuff. Only beings which I experience, and this is usually like in darker room in the twilight. Maybe it must be some kind of light as medium, probably. So I'm looking on the white. So, and shades start to move. The shade usually. Yes, and you know, yes, it's only my experience, something which is look like alive beings. So it's beings which look like insects. Quite unpleasant experience, honestly. It looks like looking on, you know, many spiders which are kind of coming together and doing some kind of activity together. So yeah, but you know, I passed through, and that's actually, it's not bad. You know, it just not very happy looking interior. It's look like interior, honestly, not exterior, interior of something. So it's in some kind of round or bowl-like formations with very dimmed light, and then interior becoming even more simple. So just 2 walls you're moving in between. So, and it's only fog, I mean, between 2 walls, and in the walls it's very simple, I would say life, but geometrical forms. Not quite super geometrical, but you know, looks like it's elements, some, I don't know, I mean, hard to describe.
And one thing I will mention that I thought about now, in the physical world, we have 4 elements. And then when you come to these elemental realms, there gets more and more elements. In this 2nd realm, you have around 8 different types or elements. And in the 1st, you have about 18 or 19 elements. So when you observe these beings as normal, Steiner described only the elemental beings of the 3rd realm, because that was open at that time. You have then the 4 types: gnomes, sylphs, and Dains, and salamanders. And then you can, an exercise can be, try to look at the types of these insects, and you will find that they are about, you said they have the different constellations, some like this, some like that. There are about 8 variations of those possibilities that you can see in the 2nd realm of the elemental world.
Yeah, you know, Ari, it also relates to if you're changing your observation or changing your gaze. So, for example, I'm observing one type of fabric, which is cotton. right? If I'm looking on something different, also like in shade, so it's different type of beings.
Hmm. Oh yes, yes, yes,
Like from same family, but they are different.
yes. They are all different, more or less. Very good, Andrei. That is for the next time.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, hatred, I mean, I'm kind of a little struggling with it.
Yeah, but you can try to, what you should do, don't struggle too much with these things. Go straight through again.
Yeah.
Go straight through. Because when you, after the second, you come to the first, and there you meet the Asuric beings, which are quite different from the Ahrimanic. You said the Ahrimanic are not pleasant. It is very gray, it's very dull, it's no joy, and so on. When you come to the Asuric, it is terrible. And that you don't want to stay there at all in the first. So then you have to go through, and then you reach the threshold.
Yeah. So, but what I have to do when I will reach this fog? Actually, looks like I can see it, but still not reaching. So, but it's like foggy, like pretty dense fog in the great day. So it's something which is coming closer.
Yeah. But you have to use your will and go straight through.
Yeah.
And there you have to use your will and strength. You have to have a certain strength. You have to have a certain conviction. You have to have a certain impulse. And then you just go through.
Yeah, it's interesting experience because I used to snorkel, just diving underwater.
Yes.
It's a very similar experience.
Yes.
So you're moving forward
Yes.
without almost so much of a movement, physical movement, but you.
Yes, exactly. Forward. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, R. Okay, dear friends, we have like 15 minutes more. Yes, and okay, so we're done with Glenn. Glenn, do you have any questions more? Glenn? Yeah, please remove your hand, and so we will proceed with Penny, Dr. Penny. Yes, okay. Yeah, Penelope? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Very quickly, I think I too broke through into the second realm, the Ahrimanic realm. I'm not quite sure, and I wanted to check with you, Ari, as to whether you think I did. I chose a different pot plant, a calathea, and I was trying to use a lot of focused will to push forward with the intent that I wanted to get into the second realm. And about 3 sessions in a row, I got the feeling I was nearly there, but I have given myself an hour and no longer, and I'd come to the end of the time. The third time, I came to the end of the time, and I got up and put my iPad away, and all of a sudden, I was walking through this area with spiders all around me. They were very small, and I had like a protective sheath or egg around me. And so I wasn't afraid, because in ordinary life, I really don't like spiders, and I was a little apprehensive about how I'd find it. But I felt totally protected because there was this envelope around me. And beyond that, the whole air was just, well, it wasn't air, it was just space, and it was full of these very, very, very small spiders just moving everywhere. It was a little bit like the effect you get say when you've got dandelions and the wind blows and all of the seed heads come up and they're around in the air everywhere. Now, was that a genuine experience?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Oh, I got somewhere then. Now,
Absolutely.
I had a worry after that, not a worry, but a question, because I think I didn't come properly back into my body, into normal consciousness for 2 days after that. And what made me think that was that I kept having this feeling of somebody just over my shoulder. And, you think you catch someone out of the corner of your eye. And I kept looking around, and of course, there's never anyone there. And it took about 2 days for that to settle down and stop happening. Should I worry about it or not?
Have I mentioned that person on the right side of the shoulder before?
To me, no, I don't remember.
Because that is when that is a normal experience. And for me, that lasted about, several years, 3, 4, 5 years, when I had this person over the right shoulder. That is an Ahrimanic being. And it is, to my knowledge, don't be afraid, that is, to my knowledge, death, your death.
Ah, that's interesting. My death.
Yes.
So is it a good idea to try and look at it or not? Or
you can't look at it. It always disappears when you try.
So I just keep on going and don't worry too much about it, is that?
Don't worry, we are all going to die, and he's there and looking after you and helps you when time comes.
And I have been feeling terribly cold and shivering, more than I think is attributable to the actual winter here. Is that associated with this whole experience?
Ahriman is cold.
The
Ahrimanic world is cold.
I thought I read that years ago in a book and the memory came back. I'm still cold now. I can't seem to warm up.
So you seem to be in the second realm, where where the spiders and the death is and the coldness is, and then you must bring warmth in.
Ah, okay. Just by
remember the balance of warmth and cold. The Luciferic is warm, the Ahrimanic is cold, and then with the Christ, it balancing warmth and cold.
Right.
I don't remember which of the 19 hours this is described. You have next is to the first is to balance light and darkness. Then the second is to balance heat and cold, warmth and cold. And then the third, and that is also from the third elemental realm, is to balance life and death. So in the third realm, you have to balance light and dark.
Yes.
In the second, you balance heat or warmth and cold. And then in the first, you have to balance death and life. Although this person on your right side is not death in general, that is your death. So that is not the same as the death in the first elemental realm.
And do I get something on the other shoulder to balance it, or?
I've never seen anything on the other.
Right, okay.
So that is not the balancing of death and life in the first elemental realm. That is your Ahrimanic death double, you might say death double.
Right, I got it. Thank you.
That's two different things. Yeah. Death
Very
in general
good.
and your Ahrimanic death double is not different necessarily, but it's not the same thing.
It's the one that hasn't got to go through the threshold of death with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Steiner taught. talked about.
But still will help you.
Right. Okay. That's fascinating. So
Seeing that you get over is my opinion on that.
So I'll keep forging straight ahead and
Yes.
and go as fast as I can.
Yeah, well, not too fast, but steady speed. Steady speed. Don't rush it. Just like snorkeling.
Driving.
I said, you go to a certain speed. You don't stop. You don't force it. You just continue straight ahead towards the light.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Penelope. Thank you, R. So, dear friends, we have 8 minutes to the mark of 2 hours. We're working almost 2 hours. So, if it's no question, my question to R. Oh, okay.
Arre.
R.
Good.
Okay, to R. So, what is a tangible effect this changes of current of iron can make on the human? So you said it prevents from going into spiritual world. Is anything else? In which manner it prevents? So we have to know in order to kind of, I don't know.
Yes.
To even...
That this is according to Judith von Halle, that she says, especially today, the Black Lodges are working with the streams of molten iron, which also causes the northern pole to change, the magnetic, of course. To counteract that, we have to go into the good part of the earth. Now I repeat myself. Was it there the question?
In which manner it affects human being? I mean, like, for example, just in very simple, what kind of tangible or sensible effect?
Rudolf Steiner described that. He said that where the magnetic streams get stronger, because the magnetic streams strengthen the adversarial forces.
I see.
That is how. The double, yeah. Geographic medicine, the double, the Arianic double, probably the Luciferic too. But these streams, the magnetic streams of the earth, is nourishment for the adversarial forces. And that make it more and more difficult for us to reach the spiritual, the good spiritual. That's why we must try to counteract those changes, that which is actually pushed by the dark, the left-hand magicians. And we can only do that by helping the streams of gold even further down, because the iron is not in the center, that is the gold. And to strengthen those streams of the center of the 10, 11, 12 layer. And to do that, we have to travel through the elemental realm, over the threshold, and then we can go into the earth. And in the 7th layer, we meet Anna, which I mentioned last time or the time before, where is a portal to the spiritual world. I have talked about Anna, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but we have to go past her through further in. She's in the 7th layer. And the seventh layer is the main target of the dark forces. So we have to go further, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is possible in the good path, the good earth, because the dark earth, the evil earth, stops at the 9th level.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so dear friends, 2 questions. Anthony first, but can we be brief because it's time?
Yes, I'll try to be.
Yes, please. Mhm.
But it follows on what you just said, because earlier when I mentioned that I had traveled to the north and to these areas of iron, which is Mars itself. But what I wanted to mention was that what I brought back were samples of that material, and some is hematite, which is iron, other is magnetite. And there's a lot of magnetite. It's very, very magnetic, highly magnetic. And so that goes along with what I was saying in relation to the magnetism. But I was also thinking of the Irish monks who prevented Western humanity from reaching North America for hundreds of years. They did not want the travels to North America to begin too early because they understood the Aramanic activity. And it wasn't until Columbus rediscovered America that the movement began. But tie that into Vidar, my question is, with a flame column that you mentioned there, there's 4 sides to it, and the opposite sides are the same. There's a young person, there's another interpretation of it. The young person would be Vidar, the silent one. He was known as the silent one because the mouth is closed, and the other 2 are older. Vidar's mouth is open, and he has a beard. And I always thought the position of that column must be critical, because east-west, the young. This would be the movement of the Alps, let's say, with less Aramanic activity. The north-south would be when he was asked to leave Externstein to become the Archangel of Norway. That would be the open mouth older, but he looks north to Norway and he looks south to Europe. And this is where we are now. This is what the Northern Stream is about, that it will enter the south as it develops by Vidar. Yeah. And so I thought that that might be important to know, at least in relation to, it wasn't helter-skelter carving of Vidar on the column, but it was very specific to tell the story of what was coming. And this is what this is where we are at now.
Very, very interesting what you say.
Mhm.
And it might be that, you see, this Vidar Balder is the creator of the new clairvoyance. It might be that he is a side of Vidar. But and that is not so important if this younger Vidar is called Balder or not. It is 2 aspects of the same cosmic force. So that's okay. I liked very much your explanation of this, that Europe was sort of prevented in going North America, maybe also north. I will think more about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have one more question from Jacqueline Belcher. Yes,
It
go
is a little bit late in the piece, I realize, and I'm also not versed in all the language that you're speaking in, and this call has been extraordinary because there's so many things that I recognize just in life. But for a succinct question, and just at the very end, is it possible to be like on a dark path and not be aware of it? I do this work in the world as art, and the things that you're mentioning, particularly Mr. Host, in your sharing, and just feelings that I've had about an exhibition that finishes today, and the way you are framing things. And I'm just thinking, and have had a lot of fear and a lot of stuff operating in my field in the last 4 years. And when you speak about this left path, or, I mean, literally, I really am like, is my work serving that? I mean, so yeah, the base, I mean, yeah.
I'm not the right person to answer that.
Well, because I heard you once talk about Hilma af Klint, and, you know, so I've done this thing for 20 years, and
Hilma Klint was not on the wrong side. She was just a little too advanced for that time. Steiner said,
I guess what I'm asking is, can you be on the wrong side and not be aware of it?
Wrong side of what?
Well, you just said, like, could you be on a dark path or serving dark forces and not be aware that that's what you're doing?
Okay, I think, let's say those who worked with the Oppenheimer and the other, I think many are on serving the Ahrimanic forces, like in industry, in science, in many things, and are not aware of it. I think many can be, yes. The answer is yes, I think.
Okay.
You can be without being aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all about consciousness. So a person must be conscious.
Yes.
Well, I felt like your share about your white, because that's what I've been doing. I've been working in white sheets of paper and cutting holes. It's all geometry. And I think actually I read one of your book, Are, and you mentioned crop circles. And I had this experience when on the solstice, I had been drawing this large installation that I'd made. And I thought to myself, just as a casual thought, oh, it'd be really fun if a crop circle appeared with just this seed of life geometry. And like 2 weeks later, a crop circle appeared, but it wasn't of that geometry, but it was like a framing for it, like it would fit inside it. And so it was like this response to just a casual sort of, oh, wouldn't that be interesting type of inquiry on my behalf. And I think you were the first person that I'd ever said it's like nefarious type of energies creating that. And so I'm just innocently waking up to all of this stuff, but have been sort of playing as art for 20 years. I've just cut the first black piece. So there's this large piece, it's called Blind Faith, and it has 12,413 cuts in it. And it's the first piece that I've cut in black, and it's on exhibit. And yeah, just, yeah. Anyway. And then numbers, because you're saying there's like the Aram is the numbers, and then the white and the geometry and the beauty is luciferic. And so I'm just kind of like, oh my God. I've not intellectually engaged with any of that sort of information. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, me and my wife, we are studying Descending of Spirits of Darkness, given by Steiner. Specifically, it's all about event of 1879, when, as a result of Michael's battle in the spiritual world, so, I mean, many dark spirits or demons, they were descended into realm of human beings. It relates to high level of smartness, so intellectualism, which is mostly represent itself in the business and science and also art. So we have to be aware of it. And they are working in our blood, according to Rudolf Steiner. They're working in the blood of human beings. Dear friends, I think we are close to the end.
We must find a date, Andre.
Yes, we have to find the date. And I would like to tell, so I established email account for questions to Ari. Yes, and it still didn't work. It's still inactive, but Ari promised to look at from time to time. So please use it. So it's I will send again all instructions for these emails, and don't hesitate and send them question. Not necessarily Ari will be answering them, but at least it will help to form next our workshop. Yes, and let's work on next date.
What about 30th of September?
Yeah, it will be Saturday, right?
Yes.
I think it's great. I mean, any objections?
Same time, 30th of September.
Yeah, and my suggestion, it will be Vidar Day on August 20th.
Yes.
Yeah, please, you cannot, I mean, please do not answer even now, but can you give some maybe online presentation for this particular festival?
Then?
On August 20th, as you said, it's date of Vidar.
Yeah, I am at that date, I am teaching in Haarlem in Holland.
Okay.
So it's difficult for me to do that on that date.
Yeah, and question, I mean, in which language are you teaching? In German?
No, in English.
In English. Does it make sense just, give us information so some people can join your different workshops? So I saw you have good 10 workshops already scheduled. I saw it on your Facebook.
Yeah. You have it all there.
Yeah, do you have links to join or how to contact them?
No,
Or you prefer to keep it like, it's the same group?
Yeah, it is just groups. I don't think they
They're not open.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so dear friends, please mark your calendars. So September 30th, it will be 11 a.m. In Chicago, which is Central Time in US. Yeah, please adjust it for your region, for Australia, for France, for England. Yeah. Yes, and yeah, Ari, thank you so much for your workshop. It's very enlightening. Because according to Rudolf Steiner, when we are dealing with super sensible experience, we are bringing life in our civilization. So, yeah, dear friends, please feel free to unmute your machines and say thank you and all the best to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very grateful.
And thank you, Andre, for putting it all together.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for being with us.
Thank you, Andre.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night or good morning. Yeah.